Thank you for tuning in to the latest edition of the 12 Kyle podcast. Whether you're listening during your commute, while working out, or just relaxing at home, we appreciate you. Every download, every listen, and every subscription means a lot. Up next, the 12 Kyle podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening. Thank you for downloading. And thank you for subscribing to the latest edition of the 12 Kyle podcast. I am your boy, 12 Kyle. I want to thank you all for tuning in as you do each and every week. Shout out to those of you who are watching on YouTube and Spotify. Man, check this out. On this episode, I want to talk about dumb shit. Listen, if you were a child, depending on what era you came up in, you probably did some dumb shit, right? If you follow the podcast, you know, a couple of years ago, I did an episode on really some of the dumbest things that I've ever done in my life. And I'm a pretty smart guy, right? But, you know, particularly when we were kids, we did dumb shit. And, you know, I mentioned firing a loaded gun in the house, not knowing that the gun was loaded. The clip was taken out, but I didn't know about the one in the chamber, you know, so I did, you know, dumb shit. Like, you know, I had some pine straw on my porch and I was lighting the pine straw on fire, not knowing that I could burn the whole house down. Yes. I mean, like I said, just dumb shit. So I talked about that on the podcast, but on this episode, I want to talk even more a little bit about just the dumb shit that we did, but this time I'm going to kind of include me and the people around me, my friends, my family, because we, you know, did some dumb shit. And I mean, like, and don't get me wrong, folks. I was born in the 70s, grew up in the 80s and the 90s. It was the best of times, but that doesn't necessarily mean that we did, you know, the smartest of things. And I got this idea really just listening to the homie Eclectic. Shout out to E. He's got a new podcast venture called Before Everything Changed. Make sure that you check it out. All nostalgia podcast. The guy's on another level. He's got all kinds of videos and everything. But it's a really, really dope podcast. You guys have heard E on this podcast 1,000 times. But I got this idea about this podcast because he mentioned doing something dumb as a child. And I was like, you know, we did and what was interesting was, like, even listening to him tell the story, it just reminded me that no matter where you are, no matter how old you are, you probably did something dumb as a child. And you would think that as you go along, the level of dumb would kind of dissipate. Not necessarily the case. For instance, like when I was in elementary school, right? We used to do this thing called breaking pencils. Now, I really don't know what the object of the game was. Like, I would have my pencil, and then let's say Eclectic, he would have his pencil. And so he would stick, and if you're watching on YouTube or Spotify, you can understand what I'm talking about. So he would hold the pencil like this. So I would hold my pencil horizontally for those of you who are listening. And then E would take his pencil and have his pencil hit my pencil as hard as he could, trying to break my pencil. And you could only use like a number 2 pencil. You couldn't use the big fat pencils or anything like that. And so we would take turns. So he'd get a turn, then I'd get a turn, then he'd get a turn, and then I'd get a turn. And the goal was to, you know, break the other person's pencil. It sounds simple in thought, but what happens once your pencil gets broken? I mean, like, you really have no need for a pencil that's broken in half. I mean, none whatsoever, because if your pencil's over here and your eraser's over here, it is pointless. But we used to do dumb stuff and I'll be honest, everything that I'm going to tell you, I don't necessarily know that I don't think it's just me, but I mean, I grew up in Florence, South Carolina, and maybe we did things a little different than where it was where you grew up. So I'll need y'all to tell me if I was bugging or the people around me were bugging. But yeah, in elementary school, we used to break pencils. And again, you had to use the number 2 pencil, and it couldn't be the fat pencils. You couldn't use those because obviously the fat pencils can easily break. Um, and we used to have these things called rubber pencils, but you couldn't use rubber pencils either. To be honest, I don't even know if the pencils were really rubber, but that's what they would say. So they were like, no, you can't use rubber pencils, only the wooden number 2 pencils. And so we would take turns trying to break each other's pencils. And I'll be honest, it could have been a little boy's thing because now that I think about it, I don't remember any girls playing in this game, but we used to do it a lot. Dumb shit. Like I said, just dumb shit. Oh, here's another one. And I know this is probably only relegated to those of you like me who grew up in the South. So back in the 80s, vibe with me on this. Back in the 80s, there was a thing called the mosquito truck. And with, I know, don't laugh. The mosquito truck would come by and its job was to spray for mosquitoes. So let's say you lived on Main Street, right? So every day during the summertime around, let's say 5 o'clock, the mosquito truck would come down Main Street. And so it would come down your block. And what it would do was it would spray. They had this big thing on the back of the truck, like a little flatbed truck. They had this big compartment that would push out a spray. And the spray was actually a pesticide to kill mosquitoes. Now, granted, we weren't living in ancient times or anything. We weren't getting mosquitoes the mosquitoes weren't carrying malaria or anything like that. But the mosquitoes in our area, I mean, like they did, work for the Red Cross. I mean, like when you got bit by a mosquito, you knew because they drew a couple of pints of blood. But so the premise is for the mosquito truck to come through, spray your street down, and just keep going to the next street over. And so what it would do is, like I said, I'm on Main Street. It would come down Main Street, and then when it got when it got to our neighborhood, they would release the spray, and keep in mind, nobody's getting out of the car. It's literally a mosquito drive-by. They're riding down the street. They press a button. The mosquito spray comes out. You can see it. You can smell it. And that would be it. And it would just kind of linger in the air or what have you. So at one point, me and my friends just got this bright idea, like, hey, when the mosquito truck comes past us, let's run behind it and get in the spray. Not knowing that what we were doing was really putting ourselves in the harm's way of some type of pesticide. Nothing that would kill us, but it could. If it got in your eyes, it could burn your eyes a little bit. Or you probably could get high. I don't know. And so one day we got the idea. We saw the mosquito truck coming, and the mosquito truck seemed to be like always on time. 5:30, it was coming down the street. And we were playing outside, and I must have been like 7 or 8 years old. And the mosquito truck came by, and we ran right behind the truck in the path of the mosquito spray. And we got mosquito spray in our eyes and our hair and our clothes and stuff. And we didn't care. And, there was one kid that coughed a little bit, but it didn't bother anybody. And we did this quite a few days. I don't know, man. And even today, as a 52-year-old man, I have no explanation as to why we did it. It was just dumb. We didn't know any better. Well, I can't even say we didn't know any better. We knew better, but it seemed like fun, so we did it. What else? There was a couple other things that we did in elementary school that was very dumb. Have you ever seen somebody flip their eyelids? I know. Listen, I know it sounds gross, right? So what we would do as little boys to freak the girls out, you have to kind of put your finger on the top of your eyelid and flip it to the other side to where the underside of your eyelid is actually on top of your eye, and it's showing, so people can see the top part of your eyelid, which is pink. And so we would do that for both of our eyes. and we would run behind the girls and terrorize them. Listen, I have, and if there are any young ladies from my hometown, my neighborhood that are listening, I apologize. We literally didn't know any better, but we would flip our eyelids and try to chase the girls and scare them. I don't know why they would run and holler, but that was like the cool thing to do. We were wild in elementary school. Um, I think I talked about this before, but if not, I'll touch on it briefly. We didn't really play baseball, but we played a game. And I've heard that this game is called different things in different places, but we used to call it roly poly. Don't ask. Right. So the object of the game, it was kind of like baseball. You would stand at home plate. Someone would pitch you the ball, and we use the tennis ball, and they toss it to you underhand, and you'd have to hit it, right? So like, let's say I hit it, I don't know, 10 feet. So I hit the ball 10 feet, I run to first base. And then what has to happen is there's nobody there at first base for me to be thrown out to. What happens is I get to first base, the pitcher gets the ball wherever the ball is stopped, right? And then you're supposed to line up so the bat is laid down flat on home plate. The bat is laid down flat, and the pitcher has to roll the ball now to the bat that's laying down flat across home plate. If they roll the ball to the bat and the ball hits the bat while it's on the ground, you're out. If it doesn't, you can stay on first base, and then you advance each base every hitter that comes up. Listen, it was ghetto baseball. I get it. It was ghetto. It was country and it's ghetto. But man, we had so much fun playing roly poly, and that's how you scored. Like if they couldn't hit the bat when you put the bat down, then or they couldn't stop the ball, because keep in mind they had to roll the ball from wherever it stopped. So if I hit the ball 20 yards away, you got to roll it from that spot wherever the ball stopped at. So it was always fun playing roly poly. I don't necessarily know that there were any winners or losers, but hey, like I said, just dumb shit. We just made up stuff, man. And that's why I'm always critical, and also kind of make fun of kids these days, because we found stuff to do. I mean, like, who thinks of a game like this? And yet, today's kids, they have all the technology in the world, and they could never come up with something like this. What else? Oh, we used to now, kids like me, I can't say I never took one gymnastics class, but I knew how to do backflips, right? So we would do backflips, and we would have contests, and then sometimes, this is gonna sound gross, sometimes, and particularly when I lived in the projects, there were people who would, like, let's say they got a new bedroom set, right? They got a new bedroom set, so they would bring down their old mattress and their old box springs, and they would put it beside the dumpster. And so you put it beside the dumpster, so when the people come to pick up the trash, they put the mattress and the box springs in the dumpster. Well, again, ghetto. We're playing ghetto gymnastics, I guess. So somebody got the bright idea one day, was like, "Hey, you guys do backflips. Why don't you guys do flips off of this mattress?" And we was like, "Yeah, okay, cool." And so it was like having your own personal trampoline. So we would run, jump on it, do front flips, we do back flips and everything. And then there were kids, not me, but there were kids who would lay on these mattresses. Keep in mind, you don't know where the mattress came from. You just know that somebody is throwing it away for trash. And you don't know what kind of bodily fluids might be on this mattress. I'm going to just leave it at that. But yeah, we used to flip off the mattresses, man. It was a time. It was a time to be alive. And then we got to middle school, and you should get a little bit more sense about yourself. You shouldn't be doing as much dumb shit. But I was in middle school. No, I take that back. I was in high school and I fired that gun. But that's another story for another day. In middle school, at least for me and a couple of my partners, there seemed to be some type of infatuation with fire. I don't know why. The story that I told at the beginning, with the pine straw. Yeah, that happened, because we were infatuated with fire. Well, my cousin Eric, shout out to my cousin Eric, who I always seem to get in trouble with. Um, he showed me one day what would happen if you had a lighter and you struck the lighter and you took an aerosol can and sprayed the lighter as the lighter was lit. Well, the fire comes out like a torch. And so we would we would get lighters and we would get aerosol cans from like spray starch, Lysol, whatever you could get your hands on for an aerosol can. And we would just go around lighting stuff on fire. I remember one summer, man, we would. Are you feeling nostalgic for the golden eras of rap and soul music? If so, tune in to the Rap Soul Podcast. We are your weekly journey through the 80s, 90s, and 2000s, spotlighting the music and the hidden gems that shaped the soundtrack of our lives. From the powerful beats to the soulful melodies, we bring you the best of the past with fresh insights and stories. Rediscover the music that defined a generation. Subscribe to the Rap Soul Podcast and enjoy the vibes. If you want a podcast where culture, conversation, and life collide, where you get insightful commentary, engaging discussions, and a fresh perspective on everything, then you need to listen to the 12 Kyle podcast. Hosted by the one and only, yours truly, 12 Kyle, a voice that you know and trust. This podcast will bring you thought-provoking moments, compelling stories, and a whole lot of fun. Whether you're a first-time listener or just tuning in, each episode promises to be something new and exciting. So sit back, relax, join 12 Kyle, myself, and my guests as we break down the world around us and give you stories that you've never heard before, from nostalgic throwbacks to everything in between. The 12 Kyle podcast is a front row seat to this conversation. Subscribe now and never miss an episode of the 12 Kyle podcast, where the vibe is always real and the discussion is always worth your time. Like in where we lived in Florence, particularly after the spring, we get a lot of butterflies and caterpillars and stuff like that. So it would be nothing. You could walk outside and you see 10 caterpillars on the ground. And so we got the idea of, hey, let's set these caterpillars on fire. So we would get the torch and get the torch effect with the aerosol can and the lighter and light these caterpillars on fire. Again, I apologize. Didn't know any better, but we were just doing dumb shit. This next one is really funny, at least for me, because childhood humor, right? We had this game called Shoot the Knee. And so, and listen, what I'm about to tell you makes no sense whatsoever. I don't know why we used to do it. So, like, let's say you're standing up. We're in 7th grade. We're going to the media center or the library in school, and we're all in line. And so if you're standing there, so I'm standing in line and Tommy's standing in front of me. And so if somebody say, hey man, shoot his knee. And so what I would do is I would take my knee and hit him and take my knee and push my knee into the back of his leg, in like the back of his knee, basically. And if his knee folded or buckled, or if he even fell, that meant that he was hungry. I don't know where we came up with that shit from, but it would be so funny to shoot the knee to people and, like, you know, you're catching somebody off guard. I've seen kids actually fall, because you're leaning, let's say you're putting all your weight on one leg, and now all of a sudden somebody knees you in the back of your knee, and you're gonna buckle. We just got the biggest kick out of that. I don't know why. I don't know who started it. I don't know where it came from, but it meant that if your knee buckled, you were hungry. And the last thing you want to be known for in middle school is the kid that's being hungry. Even though we went to school with a bunch of kids who only ate when they came to school. But That's another subject for another day. So middle school, we it was just childish humor, right? Just childish. Um, so then by the time I got to high school, the game kind of changed a little bit. Um, I think I know I've told this before, but I don't know if I've told this particular story. Okay, so we had a pool, right? We have a pool. Um, at a house, my house back in Florence. Um, and so in the summertime, me and my cousin Eric, we would throw pool parties, and we just, invite the fellas over, invite some girls we went to school with. Hey, come get in, come get and get in the pool. And then at one point, uh, we were actually like feeding people. We were like, hey, we'll throw some hot dogs on the grill, and y'all come over and we'll get in the pool. And so like that was a thing. So and I'm not, I'm not bragging, but we threw a nice pool party. I'll just put particularly for 1991, relatively speaking, yeah, we threw a good pool party. Um, but one of the things that Eric and I used to do, and our crew was notorious for, was um, we would throw girls in the pool. If you came to my house and you didn't want to get your hair wet or you didn't want to get in the pool, it was best that you stay outside of the gate because the pool was gated. If you came inside the gate, then that means, and even if you were sitting on patio furniture, that meant that you didn't mind getting wet or you didn't mind being in the pool. And so, there were a couple of times where we just threw people in the pool, guys and girls. We got a real big kick out of throwing girls in the pool. I don't know why. And what we would do was we would try to find out who could swim and who couldn't, because where our pool was set up is that there's this one area that's just 3 feet of water. Okay, so if you're at our house and you're in the pool and you're in the 3 feet area, you're fine because you can stand up in that water, right? We're high schoolers. Everybody's tall, or at least tall enough. But then we had a deeper end where the diving board was, and that was like 8 feet. That's how far down it went. So we made sure that we didn't throw anybody in the pool who couldn't swim, because if you throw somebody in the 8 feet and they can't swim, they're probably going to drown. So, so I remember one time, this young lady, and I'm not going to call her name because I'm almost certain she's going to see this podcast, or at least a clip. She came over and she had a bikini on, and she was, she said she was going to get in the pool, and we kept saying, like, let's just call her Sabrina. Sabrina, get in the pool. No, I'm cool. I'm gonna get in. I'm gonna get in later. I'm gonna get in later. Sabrina, get in the pool. No, I'm gonna get in later. So 20 minutes later, Sabrina, come on, you getting in the pool? No, I'm gonna get in later. Hey man, all I hear is somebody say, "Hey man, throw Sabrina ass in the pool." Bruh, we go grab Sabrina. One grabs her by her arms, the other grabs her by her feet. And she's like, put me down. And we act as if we're going to throw in the 3 feet, in the 8 feet in. But then I realized, and I knew that she couldn't swim. So I was like, no, take it to the 3 feet. And so we throw Sabrina in the pool. She was not happy. she went under the water, stood up, and came up cussing. But it was fun. It was so much fun, man. Oh, I miss those days. I miss those pool party days. If I had a pool party, y'all, yeah, listen, if I had a pool party and I invited you, you'd better come, because you were going to have a good time. We were going to have a good time regardless. Then, the dumb stuff that we would do kind of transitioned a little bit as you got older, because you get to college and you don't do as much dumb stuff. But I know one thing that I did dumb that I will never do again, and that's drive fast. Listen, I've been driving a car probably since I was 14. I think. Yeah, I think I had my learner's permit at 14. Driver's license at 15, I think, or maybe it was 14 and 15. But and I'm a pretty good driver. But like, I've never, how most young men are fascinated with driving fast. I was never one of those guys that wanted to drive a car fast. That driving fast doesn't do nothing for me at all. In fact, I'd rather just drive, and I'm not sitting here telling you that I just drive the speed limit, but, you'll never catch me on the highway, going 100 miles an hour, except for that one time. me and some of my boys, I think we left Orangeburg. We were at South Carolina State University, and we were coming to Atlanta. We were coming here. This was, I want to say, probably my second time. Probably my second time as a college student coming to Atlanta, and I can't remember where we came from. You know, was it Freaknik? It may have been Freaknik. No, I can't. Let's just say it was Freaknik, right? And so one of the guys said we were taking 3 different cars, so we were all riding, 3 different cars, but we were going to travel together. And one of the guys said, "Hey, man, when we get on the highway, we're going to burn out." And I was like, "Okay, yeah, that's what's up. Let's burn out." Now I'm driving my car, and we get on the Interstate 20 going west, and as soon as we get on the interstate, man, like these guys are flooring it. I look down, I'm doing 95 miles an hour. Then I look again, I'm at 100 miles an hour, and I'm following them. So we're in and out of traffic. Nobody's driving crazy, but we literally from like Augusta to Atlanta, which is that's probably about 2 hours. Man, I don't ever remember doing anything less than 90 miles an hour. We kind of slowed up in one little area where we knew cops were, but I was just following them, and I was doing 95, 100, and I was the last car, so I don't know how fast they were going. And man, we get in what probably is normally a 3.5 hour trip. I think we got to Atlanta. I think we got to Atlanta in like 2 hours. I was like, I'm never doing this again. But I mean, we didn't have cell phones, and I mean, I knew my way. I knew how to get to Atlanta, but I was going to have to follow them because we were all staying in this one area, whatever, in College Park, and so I couldn't, I couldn't just fall behind. And this was what, 94. So yeah, I'll never drive that fast again. But again, doing dumb shit, and that's why I hope and pray that my kids don't do anything dumb like some of the stuff that I've described in this episode. And last but not least, we used to do dumb stuff. You ever take something from somebody and just to prove a point, or just take something just to take it, steal it? We used to call it housing. Like you take something from somebody and you say, "Man, I housed it. I housed that from him, or I housed that from her." And sometimes you give it back, sometimes you wouldn't. Like I remember distinctly, I had a hat, a dope Michigan hat, my freshman year, and somebody came and housed my hat. And I don't know, to this day, I don't know who took that hat. And word on the street was that one of my teammates had it, and he was seen wearing it around somewhere a couple of weeks later. I never could confirm that he took it. I confronted him. He said he didn't have it, so forth and so on. So it's whatever. But yeah, so people would take stuff from you, particularly if you got caught slipping. And that's what we used to say, "Man, I housed that because you were slipping. I caught you slipping." And so I'll never forget this. I was preparing to drive from Orangeburg, South Carolina to Washington, D.C. for the weekend. Me and my man Russ was going to his hometown. Russ is from D.C. That's my roommate, my dog. We played ball together, one of my best friends. And so we were in separate cars. And so what happened was I went upstairs in our dorm. I parked my car in front of the dorm, Mitchell Hall, and I went upstairs to get something, right? And when I went upstairs, I left my car unlocked. I came back downstairs, and when I came back downstairs, I discovered that my portable CD player was missing. The portable CD player was missing, so at this point, I'm panicking like, okay, well, where did I leave it in the room? I needed it for this trip. I didn't want to have to, drive all the way to DC listening to the radio. Yes, kids, this was before Spotify and playlists and all this stuff like that. Like you had to have your music. I had a CD player, I had a CD book and everything. The only thing that was missing was the CD player. Everything else, my CD books, all of my CDs were in my car, but my CD player was missing. And I searched far and wide. That CD player was in my car when I went upstairs. And when I came back downstairs, it was gone. And I know that I left the doors unlocked, but I kept the windows up. And I couldn't believe that somebody took my CD player. So I ride all the way to DC, mad because somebody took my CD player. I got to listen to the radio. And, one of the frustrating things about listening to the radio is that, you got to listen to the radio. So even if you're in an area where you can get a good reception on a station, it's only going to last but for a little while. And then you're into another area where you can't hear what you were listening to. And so I ride all the way to DC, mad, ride all the way back. Had a great time in DC. Get back, and DC's at this point is probably about a 7.5 hour drive from Orangeburg. We get back to campus and come to find out that one of my teammates took my CD player. And I'm not going to mention his name because that would be petty for me to mention his name, Rod Walker. So this fool took my CD player and said, "Hey, I caught you slipping. I just wanted to prove to you a point that you should never leave your car unlocked." And he gave me back my CD player. Now, I love Rod Walker, but I really wanted to kick Rod Walker's ass that day because I had to drive to DC for 7.5 hours with no CD player. And it's all Rod Walker's fault. And even to this day, when I see Rod Walker, I give him nothing but love. We laugh, we joke about it. But in the back of my mind, I still want to kick Rod Walker's ass for that because that weekend I had no music and I don't want to go anywhere without having music. But, we did dumb shit. This is the kind of thing that happens in the 90s. And I think we're better for it. I think one of the things more than anything else I learned is not to do dumb shit. But more importantly, I hope and pray that not just me, but the people around me, the people that I grew up with, we didn't pass these traits on to our kids because God forbid if they ever did this dumb shit, I would go crazy. Ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for me. Thanks again for checking out this edition of the 12 Kyle podcast. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast. We drop new episodes every Thursday and every Sunday. Also, make sure to check out the Rap Soul podcast. It is my music podcast. It is the place where we have the intersection of discussion between music, artists from the 80s, 90s, and the 2000s when it comes to rap, hip hop, soul, and R&B. Simply put, folks, it's the best music podcast that you've never heard. So make sure that you check it out. You can find it on all streaming platforms as well as YouTube. Also, we have merch. Check out the 12 Kyle podcast merch. We have t-shirts, hoodies, as well as coffee mugs. We got it for the low. Also, you can contribute to the podcast financially by hitting us up on Cash App, $TWELVEKYLE. Ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for me. Thanks again for checking out this edition of the 12 Kyle podcast. I am your boy 12 Kyle. I will catch you guys next time. 5,000. Cheers.
Thanks again for listening to this episode of the 12 Kyle podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure that you hit the subscribe button and share this podcast with a friend who needs the 12 Kyle podcast in their life. Every listen, every download, and every share helps us grow. Thanks for being a part of the 12 Kyle podcast community. We appreciate your support. We will catch you next time. 5,000.